Welcome. I am Mark Dundas, and this is TechWorks MCIP Series Training Part 2, Parts and Pieces. This is a 4-part training. If you've already taken Part 1, then you already know all that. This is assigning some part numbers and talking about all the pieces. We talked about an overview of the parts and pieces in Part 1, but now we're going to get into some of the specifics of what they do and how they're suited to different applications. There are presentation guide handouts available if you want to pause this presentation and go back to the website, print them out. The PDF does have a place for you to take notes. Also, when you're done with this, certification testing is available. If you take all 4 parts of the test, we are happy to present you with a certificate of authorization as an expert on the TechWorks MCIP series. A little bit of review. Where is MCIP used and why? In public safety, the key is reliable performance with integration. When you take components like an amplifier and a relay and make an intercom as an integrator, each intercom comes out a little differently because of the way that integrator does it. What we've tried to do is use the best parts of analog components and build a system that takes the integration out of it from the standpoint of hooking all the stuff together. We hooked it all together. All you have to do is send it commands through your control system. This is suitable for detention, cell to guard communication, police stations, courthouses, security desks, interrogation rooms, isolation cells, and in healthcare, where hands-free audio is imperative. You have things like prison infirmaries where they need to communicate with inmates that are ill. You have isolation rooms where you want to keep an eye on certain people. You have operating rooms where the doctors can't touch anything but need to communicate outside of that environment. You have observation rooms where you might have sleep labs. You might have behavioral health issues for observation. You might have child development for observation. And in chemotherapy sterile compounding labs, you have a very high noise environment with multiple operators that may be supervising technicians in that high noise lab environment. Very challenging acoustically. We've done them all, very successful. Basic system functional diagram. So in an operator console, you have a complete sound system with TCP/IP interface. You got your microphone, mic preamp, you got your speaker with its amplifier, you got the codec converting the D to A to D into the CPU. You've got some analog buttons that go through logic control to get into the CPU, like push to talk and reach. These are all brought out to the LAN. You have the same thing on the back end where your MCIP 116 goes out and talks to the cells and the call buttons from the cells. You have, again, a mic preamp and a speaker amplifier through the codec, A to D, D to A conversion, CPU, few control logic inputs for those buttons you've got out there and some lights on some of the stations. This all comes out again to a LAN connector. The LAN connects bidirectional streaming audio. So I listen to you, you listen to me, and all of this is orchestrated by a host in each system. MCIP pieces. You basically have an operator desk console with either a touchscreen provided by TechWorks or a touchscreen provided by the integrator. You have station interface panels that take the audio out to your field hardware, which is standard 25-volt industry vandal-proof hardware. Then you have an TCP/IP network in the middle, which connects it all together. Standard cat cable, standard switch. The only thing that's unique about this switch is it is an unmanaged switch. What does that mean? We are providing the IP addresses, and we don't want anything on this switch other than our equipment. We don't want to share bandwidth with your cameras and have latency. We don't want this sound getting slowed down as it comes through here. We want this thing to act like it's a hardwired system. Best way to do that is keep a small switch that's dedicated to this network. Then you add a host or a server, which has a host in it. And the host sits here and makes all these connections. It hears the request from a call station, from a call button, and routes that to an operator who then selects that station, takes the call, and there is a connection between the operator and that remote station. When the call is ended, the operator pushes a button on their touchscreen, ends the call. All of the connectivity happens through the host. Modular Communications Internet Protocol. You've got standalone systems where everything is self-contained. There is no integration. And then you've got the fully integrated expanded system, which has control system, touchscreens, cameras, all kinds of things integrated through servers. Servers talk to other servers in other buildings, and this server can talk to this server, and this server can talk to this server. So this operator over here can talk to this building. This operator over here can talk to this building if need be. All of this happens through the magic of your network integration. Much more complex, much more sophisticated, but you can do a lot of things with it because all the commands that are built into this standalone system are made available to you through the API. Operator Desk Console. We make two versions. The TS version, the MCIP ODC TS, includes a 10-inch rugged touchscreen. This is designed for standalone applications like prison infirmaries and security intercoms. We also make that same unit without the touchscreen on it for you to provide all the control. Absolutely the same thing, just one has the control system built in, the other one is counting on you to provide the control through your PLC or whatever else. The touchscreen operator console is a complete system control console. It has the 10-inch built-in monitor, touchscreen monitor. It has your push to talk button. It has reach up and down. Now, what is reach up and down? So you've got a volume control over here on the side that turns your speaker up and down. But what this is doing is turning the microphone sensitivity on the distant end up and down. So let's say you have something on the distant end that you're having trouble hearing and you want to hear somebody whispering. You push that up button and it will increase the sensitivity of the microphone at the remote location. If it's too loud, you can push it down so that you're not getting as much background noise, and you can control all of this by just pushing up or down. However you leave these settings, because you like listening to this cell at this particular level, that will be stored when this call is ended. It doesn't matter if it's this touchscreen version or the other console. When you are done with this call, it remembers how you last had this reach set, so that from time to time, if you get a very loud station, you don't have to turn it down every time you select it. It'll stay where you put it. Lighted push buttons give feedback. They let you know when someone's calling. They also let you know the status of what you're pushing and what is happening at the console. All of these are liquid proof. This speaker is a weatherproof speaker with silicone seal. All of these buttons are hermetically sealed. So it's pretty much waterproof. Not that you couldn't damage it if you really tried to soak it in a bucket of water, but for the most part, it'll take quite a bit of liquid. You also have a concealed microphone built in down here in the front. So that picks up all the sound without being obtrusive or being vulnerable to vandalism. It does require local power because of the amount of power that's required by the touchscreen and the touchscreen controller. You have to have a local power supply out here at one of these touchscreen stations. Where is MCIP used? It's used in guard locations, prisons, police stations, courthouses, security desks. It's also used in nurses' stations, in prison infirmaries, behavioral health, and assisted living. This touchscreen is very, very programmable. It's also very easy to use. You don't have to know much because these buttons tell you what they're doing. If it lights up and you touch it, you're talking to that station. If you want to talk to a particular station, you just push it and it lights up in a different color, telling you which station you're communicating with. You got flexible screen labeling. So you see this up here where it says TechWorks MC System. You can actually label that to be guard 1, cell block 3, or whatever you call this station. Whatever you identify this physical location that this station is in, you can label that if you choose to. Also, you can change the lettering and numbering on any of these buttons. There is absolutely nothing in these buttons that you can't change up here. These are fixed labeling because this is where you select, I want to talk to stations versus I want to talk to consoles, or I want to call forward, or I want to page. And then when you select these, for instance, if you select page, it'll give you your page zones. All system functions are on your screen. Everything you can do is on your screen. If you don't have any consoles that you can call, there won't be any consoles. All stations, including other operators, are at your fingertips. So not only the remote stations you're responsible for, but other guards that you can call or anything like that is all right here. And if you don't want them to have functions, you have the ability to take those functions off the screen. Very, very easy to page because you just select the page button and select the page zone. Operator desk console with PoE, power over Ethernet. This is very convenient for the integrator. It has the exact same features as your ODC TS. It's got the same push to talk button. It's got the same reach up and down functions. It does everything exactly the same. It's liquid proof. It's got the concealed microphone. The only difference is it doesn't have the touchscreen and it doesn't have the touchscreen controller, so it doesn't require the amount of power that the TS does, so you do not have to have a local power supply. You can have a local power supply if you want to, but you can power it PoE because it doesn't require as much power. This thing is used in custom systems where PLC control is provided and you don't need our touchscreen. This could be door control, lighting control, camera control. Any other integrated control system can talk to this system. The TechWorks API is easy to implement. All you're doing is plugging your network into our network. The API commands are embedded in your control icon. So when you develop your custom touchscreen for custom user interface, your icons tell the intercom what to do. An example of a command that you would build into a button, when you select a station, it would send a command, ICAL space 02 space 47 /R/N to the host. That means that operator ODC number 2 is trying to connect to station number 47. If that station is not busy, the host will make that connection. We make 2 versions of the MCIP 116. Both have 1 audio channel for 16 stations. The basic MCIP 116 has 4-wire connection on the back, which we'll talk about in the next part of this training. This is simple speaker call button with a shield. Very, very simple connectivity, no light output. The MCIP 116 NC2, however, has 16 RJ45 connectors with 2 button call in and 2 light indicator outputs. This gives you the ability to hook up lighted call stations. It also gives you the ability to drive dome lights, and it gives you the ability to have 2 call levels per station location. That's for the purpose of staff assist as well as a patient call. What does the field hardware look like? For a standard simple system, the VPSS is our standard non-lighted push button 25-volt speaker station. The VPSSL is the exact same station with a lighted push button. This works with a 116. This works with a 116 NC2. You got to have an NC2 to drive that light and still see that button. If you're doing a full nurse call, the advantage to going to the NC2 VPS is it has a very articulate Mylar cone speaker. It also has built-in local cancel. So you have a call button and you have local cancel. The other big advantage is these speaker stations up here, the VPSS and the VPSSL, are hardwired for old style wiring. These are all set up with Cat5 connectors on the back for category cable connectivity, Cat5, Cat6 wire from the back of the 116 into the station, out of the station, to the next station. The RC version is the exact same thing, but it only has the lighted call button and the cancel is remote. You have 2 options for remote cancel. One is the operator cancels the call when they hang up, when they disconnect the call. Second is local call cancel, meaning you have a key switch or a remote button somewhere away from the station that the guard or staff can reset that call. All of this is programmable. So you can have local cancel, remote cancel, or both, all in the same room. It's all programmable as to how you set up what's going to happen with this, how these calls are going to get canceled. For instance, with a standard 116, the call is cleared when the operator hangs up. In the nurse call version, the NC version, you get to determine. Sometimes you don't want that call going away when the operator hangs up. That's why you have these options as to how you cancel the call. Because you have 2 call points per port on an NC2 system, you have the ability to either add a second speaker station with or without remote cancel, or you can add just a button. You already are listening to that cell. It's the same speaker path going in there. You can have a second button for staff assist so that the staff can call for help if something goes wrong while they're in that cell. And again, you can have remote cancel as well. It can be a remote cancel station or a local cancel station. To that end, we provide some key switches. These key switches can activate these staff assist buttons when someone enters the room, or they can be used to remotely cancel a call so that someone can look through the window and see that everything's okay, cancel the call without entering the cell. Or we make the KS2, which is both functions on a single plate. You can have activate these stations when you enter, and this key switch does remote cancel. We make a couple of different dome lights. The NC2DL22RW is a 2-color red-white. The purpose of this can be that it can monitor 2 kinds of stations. Staff assist typically is red, normal bed or patient call is white, or it can be used to monitor 2 stations within the same room, meaning one station is red, the other one's white. All of this connectivity on the back is RJ45. So you plug from this station to this station to this station. All of the NC2 product plugs together. We also make the NCDL44, which is a 4-color dome light, red, yellow, green, and white. This is for 4-station monitoring, meaning that you have 4 stations within a room and you have a light for each station. Standard 25-volt ceiling speakers are available. You can provide your own for common areas, or we offer horns for play yards and exercise yards. Let's talk about the MCIP 116. You have 16 individual station ports with call-in switch, no light on these stations. It's just the 116, 16 ports, 16 voice control points, 16 call points. That's it. You can use any standard 25-volt speaker. This can be a ceiling speaker. It can be a 25-volt call station. We don't care. Any 25-volt speaker out here will work just fine. This system is designed to reuse existing station wire. It is specifically designed to use the standard twisted shielded pair plus 1 conductor from the station that exists in so many of these older detention facilities. You can still use that same wire today. It creates very simple connectivity as well as simple operation. Standard twisted pair wire plus 1 conductor. Now, the NC2 gives you a lot more capability. You have 2 call points per port. So on a single Cat5, Cat6 cable, you have the ability to drive a 2-color dome light, come into that dome light, out of that dome light, still, again, just one Cat6, and then out of that station to another station. All of this is 2 RJs on the back of these stations, so an in and an out. This gives me the ability to, on a single Cat6 connection on the back of this device, have a speaker station next to the bed, as well as a staff assist station somewhere in that room away from the bed. So if there's danger to the staff, they can call for help. This is typically your bed station is a white level call, and your staff assist is typically a red level call. These are also enunciated on the touchscreen by different sounds, so that if there's a staff member in trouble, you can tell immediately. You can also have 2 voice paths going into a room. Now, each of these voice paths has 2 call points as well as 2 LED outputs. So you can actually tell which bed is calling. And again, if it is a emergency level or a normal bed call. Again, you can equip any of these stations with remote cancel if that's something that you want to do. You can also add dome lights whenever they're needed. You don't have to have dome lights. You can plug directly from the 116 NC2 directly into your remote station. But you can intercept it at a dome light and add that functionality outside of the cell. 2-button call station with local cancel. So when you see the 2 buttons, the bottom button is a call button and the top button is a cancel button. The cancel button lights up when the call is active and you can cancel it locally. If, however, you go to a single button station with remote call in, or remote cancel, I mean, you either have the option of programming the call to be canceled when the operator hangs up the call, or you can cancel the call with a local remote switch, like a key switch or a remote button, or both. Staff assist stations and separate call priority. You set the priority on these stations. In other words, you make this an emergency call by the way you set this station up in the field. It calls in on the second call point by the way you set a jumper. You add these key switches, they can either activate a station, because sometimes you don't want these staff assist stations active when there's no staff in the room. You don't want somebody putting in false emergency calls. Prisoner gets out of bed and goes over and pushes this button just to harass the staff. You don't want that. So you can have these key switches activate that station only when that person goes into that room. The staff goes in that room. It can also be a cancel button. Again, all Cat5, Cat6 cabling. Let's talk about the MCIP MSI 11. This is a very powerful box when it's needed. When you need extremely articulate, bidirectional, hands-free audio, this box gives you the ability to create a small sound system, professional grade sound system in an individual space. It has one input where you can hook up a microphone. That microphone can have a push to talk button if you want it to. It also has 10 watts at 25 volts output to drive speakers. These can be ceiling speakers, wall speakers, whatever you want. It also has CI bus interface. What is CI bus? Well, this is a different product. It's designed on an analog platform for things like cath labs in healthcare. However, we included the interface on this box so that you can have an MCIP system using collaborative intercom components. Why would you want to do that? Well, in the CI series, we have a headset interface that allows 4 headsets to be connected in an operating room. You can plug that device into here, and you can incorporate any other collaborative intercom products in your design. Built-in filters, these are designed to allow you to tailor the performance of the MSI to the room that you're in. You can turn down a high and a low frequency feedback. You can also do roll-off filters to get rid of noise rumble and other things in the room. Inside the box, you've got a bunch of jumpers. So if you take this lid off, there's a whole bunch of jumpers inside of here. What those are for is how things function. And what I mean by that is, let's say you've got those headsets plugged in here on the collaborative intercom bus, and you want them to come out of the speakers. Well, that's a jumper setting right up here in the corner. You move one jumper, and all of a sudden your headsets that are coming in this jack come out this speaker connection out to your ceiling speakers, and you can hear the people talking. So little things like that. You've got a lot of functional options inside of this box when you take the lid off if you want them. You have a remote output on here also. This is very unique in that it's designed to let staff know that they're being listened to. In other words, you have a right to privacy. If someone is turning on a microphone and listening to you, you might want to let them know. So we give you power and a control feed here that'll turn on one of our passive dome lights in the room where this microphone is located to let the people know, hey, people are listening. Be careful what you say. Where is it used? Whenever you have 2 or more operators. So the collaborative intercom is a one-to-one intercom designed for one operator, one operating room, like a cath lab. However, there are many environments where you might have multiple operators. You might have a primary and a backup. You might have 2 people working with the same group of people in a room. Whenever there are 2 or more operators, you should think MCIP, because that's where the magic comes with modular communication over the internet. In healthcare, this would be places like operating rooms, observation rooms, where you might have one operator watching multiple locations. These could be sleep labs. They could be behavioral health, or in this picture, child development. You're monitoring children at play. You're just listening. This could be isolation rooms in healthcare where you have special disease control and you need to isolate someone, but you don't want to go in because every time you go in, you have to scrub. Or it could be places like neonatal where you have a mom sitting with a NIC ICU child and they want to have a nurse monitoring what's going on in there, as well as talking and comforting the mom. Chemotherapy sterile compounding labs have become a very big deal for us because you have more than one pharmacist monitoring and supervising multiple lab technicians in these sterile compounding areas. They're mixing chemotherapy drugs and they have a very high noise environment. So it's a very tricky acoustic environment to be able to hear. But then you add to that multiple operators, and that's where you get into MCIP. In public safety, this would be interrogation rooms, just like observation rooms, same functionality. Isolation cells, where you have people that you need to keep away from the general population, but you need to also monitor them. Why use an MCIP MSI? High quality audio. Professional microphones and equalization provide better acoustic performance. And then you add the ability of multiple operators. In healthcare, as I said, you have operating rooms where the scrubbed staff can't touch anything. You have observation rooms where, with the integration of CI products, you get multiple options. You get all kinds of things like headsets and other features that you can have in these observation environments. In isolation rooms, you can hear everything from a whisper to a shout, and it comes out of your speaker at exactly the same level due to our automatic level control. Chemotherapy sterile compounding is a hands-free but a high noise environment. MCIP gives you the ability to handle both the demanding acoustic challenges and the multiple operators. Public safety, interrogation, where you might want to listen and you might want to talk to the interrogator. Isolation cells, where you need to monitor for screams or comments. You need to just listen to somebody. So let's look at real quickly how this would interface with the collaborative intercom. If you're at all familiar with our collaborative intercom, you got all these different devices. They all plug together over Cat6 cable. This is not TCP IP connectivity. This is analog connectivity using Cat6 cable. The only thing you do is substitute the CI MSI for an MCIP MSI, and you get all the connectivity, just like a collaborative intercom. So any of these part numbers can plug right into this, and you get full functionality. Best of both worlds. Your microphone options. You need articulate listening. That's why you need a professional level microphone. We have the Pro SGM shotgun microphone. It can be wall mounted or ceiling mounted, and it's great in high noise levels. High noise environments, it goes straight to the talker and blocks out the noisy background environment. Hidden microphones are great where you want no one knows that they're being listened to. These can be, they kind of look like a doorbell on the wall or the ceiling, and they'll pick up a lot of the sound within a given area. You want it somewhere near the level of where the people will be speaking. In other words, you want it in the wall if it's going to be people seated on a floor or at a table. But if you want general area pickup, they work well even in a ceiling installation. But again, it is omnidirectional, so it'll pick up everything. Clean room speaker options. These things are washable. They're gasket sealed to control dust. We make the CRS WM surface mount speaker system. These are for wall mount applications. We also make available the CRS-RC round ceiling or hard lid areas, and both of these are complete with back box and mounting hardware. What is an MCIP host? It is the connectivity controller for 544 stations. It connects 32 operators to up to 512 remote stations. It processes the call requests. So when a station calls, it routes those calls to the operators assigned to it. So let's say you assign it to ring at 4 different locations. All 4 operator consoles would be told to ring by the MCIP host. When one of those stations takes the call, the host then tells the other operator consoles to stop ringing. It also keeps track of who's busy. So if another call comes in, it doesn't try to ring that station while there is a call in process. It makes the IP connection for the streaming audio from the remote station to the operator and from the operator back to the remote station. When the call is over, it then disconnects the streaming audio connection and goes back to an availability where that station is no longer busy. It stores all of the configurations. So when you program your system, you upload your programming into the host. It is stored on a micro SD card inside of the host. Every device except the host has an ID switch, a rotary ID switch that sets the IP address of that device. So the only thing in a system that has a static IP address built in, unchangeable, is the MCIP host. Every other box, you set its ID with a rotary switch. That tells it its IP address. It then, when you connect it to the network, sends a request to its local host, and the host sends its ID and configuration down to that device. So if you have an operator console that is programmed to do some specific function, that information is tied to that IP address. When you set the rotary switch, the IP address then connects to the host sends down the configuration. In this way, you can pre-program the configuration of a system in your shop without a system and upload it to a micro SD card, take it out in the field, plug it in, and change the entire personality of your system without ever taking a laptop into a restricted area. What is a server? What's an MCIP server? It does everything a host does, and it has a host connector. This connector is where you plug into your local network. This is your private managed network. This is the one where you're not sharing bandwidth with anything else. This is the intercoms network. This is for 544 stations, 32 operators, and 512 remote stations. It's where you process calls just like a host. It is a host. And this is where you store your configuration, just like your host. Plus, we give you another connector. This is the one that you can program. So you can set the IP address of this port to interface with your LAN or WAN, however you have your system architecture set. You can set the IP address, you can set the subnet address. All the characteristics of this interface are at your command. What this does for you is it gives you 32 points of access to 32 host networks. This becomes a LAN-WAN router interface. It's separate from your host connectivity, which is controlling your intercom. You also have a USB and HDMI interface where you directly connect your human interface, meaning mouse, keypad, keyboard, a monitor, HDMI monitor. This is how you set the IP address and all the specific parameters of this box, including what you call it. You can expand this to 32 networks. So you can have 32 of these boxes on your expanded network. This gives you 1,024 operators, 16,384 remote stations. Accessories. We provide a computer grade 24-volt power supply, the PS2437B. It is 3.75 amps and includes a wall mounting bracket and a standard US Edison type plug. We also make some patch cables available in some specific lengths to make your job easier in patching from box to box. These are not intended to replace field wiring. You still got to put your field wiring in and terminate it with your RJ45s. We also make some power patch cords. What this is for is when you are sharing a power supply. For instance, an MCIP 116 does not need its own power supply. It doesn't need 3.75 amps. It needs about 1.5 amps. So you can power two of those off of one you can power two MCIP 116s off of one PS2437, and you can use patch cords to plug from one box to the next. We also provide the MCIP SW16RM, which is a 16-port rack-mountable switch. This is an unmanaged switch, meaning no DHCP, no settings that you have to adjust. You can literally plug into this box and it will do what your MCIP system wants to do. We also make this available in a PoE where you have 8 ports that are non-powered and 8 ports that are powered. So this is gigabit Ethernet LAN. It is unmanaged switching, meaning you're just passing packets. You're not doing anything with them, no routing, no nothing. You get 16 LAN ports, 8 PoE on the PoE model. Both are rack mount. That pretty much concludes it. There's not a lot of hardware for this system. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We do make a lot of tools available for you online 24/7, 365 at techworksusa.com. Brochures, specifications, data sheets. We're happy to do quotes and design assistance, design review. We also provide installation manuals, which you should have downloaded before you started any more of this presentation. Before you get into the wiring, you should have the installation manual by your side. We also provide tech support. If you need tech support, it's much better if you send us an email with your issue so that we can get it to the right person to help you, and we will call you back. Give us your contact information. We are much more accessible via email than we are by phone. Thank you for taking the time to study the product. All of our technical training is now online at techworksusa.com. We encourage everybody to take the training, and if you are going to be installing or designing these systems, get certified. Get us to help you do a better job and make your life easier. This isn't for us. This is to help you. We recommend that you take part 1 and 2 If you are a salesperson, this gives you the overview and the part number knowledge. If you are an engineer or an estimator or an installer, we recommend that you take all 4 parts so you know how to wire it and program it as well. That concludes part 2. Next up, part 3, wiring and networks.